The previous basket is under review.
Welcome back to Stats by Will and Jim, the college basketball podcast that focuses on the numbers. We are proudly a part of the Basket Under Review conglomerate. I think I shocked Will last time I said that, so I'm going to keep it going. I think it's part of the internet now officially. It is the best college basketball community on the internet. Only $10 a month gets you access to all kinds of writing on the website, both from Will and from plenty of other folks at Basket Under Review, and then also the Discord, where you can talk up college basketball rumors, you can vent your frustrations, you can talk about betting, you can talk about transfer portal upcoming, anything and everything you might want as a college basketball fan. It is there for you at your fingertips via Basket Under Review. Highly encourage you to check that out. Check out the Basket Under Review podcast, The Burp, with Eamon Brennan and Tate Frazier. And then, of course, you've got us, Stats by Will and Jim. I am your host, Jim Root, joined by Will Warren. Will, you ready to rock? It's another week. We've had some big results over the last week, so I think we got a lot to discuss.
Yeah, some big results. We're going from a conglomerate. What is it? A multinational corporation. That'll be the next step.
Exactly. We got to have.
I wasn't a finance guy.
Satellite offices in Europe because we've got players coming from there, so it's going to happen.
Yeah, so we have satellite campuses in China now. It was a really entertaining weekend. And it was nice to have one that wasn't. So weather was affecting things a bit, but it didn't feel nearly as widespread as it was last weekend.
Yes. Yeah, we had a couple things moved. Vanderbilt ended up hosting Ole Miss instead of going to Ole Miss. There were a couple little major ones that got shifted around. But yes, we are hopefully getting back to a more normal rhythm in the schedule, less panicky last-second changes. So we're looking forward to that.
I mean, I'll take it every time over COVID cancellations, of course.
Oh, what a nightmare! Let's not speak of that. Oh, what a adventure it was trying to figure out which guys were playing every week. It was crazy. Okay, we've got our standard episode coming. We'll go back and forth with 7 stats each, our 7-stat rotation. But of course, we do kick it off with the stat of the day, Will. And this one, I'm thinking, will be mostly easy until the last couple. And the stat of the day is 12 teams have 10 or more quad 1 plus quad 2 victories so far this year. Many of them are the usual suspects that you might expect, but there's 1 or 2 surprises in there. Let's see if you can name all 12. And at this point, I'd let you pull up KenPom just to see the list of teams. Maybe that's okay. Helpful. You don't have to completely pull it from random. But yes, 12 teams with 10 or more quad 1 and quad 2 wins.
Okay, so Arizona and Michigan.
Confirmed. Michigan's number 1 with 15. Arizona tied for 3rd with 12.
I'm going to go Duke and UConn.
Duke and UConn are correct. Duke and UConn tied for 2nd with 13 with 1 other team.
See, I wasn't sure if UConn would have it because of the Big East schedule, but I know that they've accumulated like 3 in Big East play, right? 3 or 4.
Yep.
So
yeah, they did a really nice job of non-conference scheduling as well.
Okay. I'm going to say Nebraska is 1.
Nebraska has 11. Yep. They're tied for 4th.
Iowa State.
The last team tied for 2nd with 13, correct?
Houston
is not.
Oh,
one of the surprising ones. Yes. They're down at 9. Yeah, so they're still chasing, and it's hurting their 1 seed and really kind of 2 seed resume right now.
All right, Illinois.
Illinois is correct. They have 10.
All right, so what am I up to? 6?
You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes.
Okay. Gonzaga.
Oh, no, you have 7. You have 7.
Okay, Gonzaga.
Gonzaga is not 1.
Damn it.
They're hurting from the WCC.
Purdue.
No Purdue.
Really? Okay, yeah, Michigan State would then be another pick.
Michigan State is correct. They have 10.
Okay, damn it.
We've got 2 from the SEC, 1 Big 12, and 1 more ACC.
Really? The SEC, huh? Vandy?
Vandy has 11. Vandy has 11.
Okay, so UCF then would be a quad 1. Okay, that must be it.
Yeah, I'm looking at Vandy. So Vandy's got 5 quad 1 and 6 quad 2.
Okay. All right, so then the other's Florida. because they would have accumulated a bunch.
Yep, Florida's at 10. They are tied there. So you've got one Big 12. I will hint that as we record Tuesday morning, they picked up a rather large one last night.
Okay, Kansas.
Yep, Kansas is 12th. Kansas is up to 7th in wins above bubble. They're like floating with 2-seed territory. It's really impressive. The last one's the hardest one. I'm going to tell you that right now. 8 of their 10 are quad 2. They're 8-0 against quadrant 2. This is from the ACC, a team that is not really that high in wins above bubble, but still manages to sneak in.
8 of their 10. So it's got to be a team that's won a lot of games. So I'm going to...
Kind of.
Oh, no.
Kind of.
Okay, so they have losses.
Yeah, it's kind of an unimpressive resume outside of the 8 Q1 wins or Q2 wins. They've got a quad 3 loss.
Outside of that, Miss Lincoln.
They have a Q3
State.
loss.
I'm going to go NC State.
NC State.
Okay.
Great guess. Yes. I was shocked that NC State is there. I mean, they're only 38th in WAB, so it's not a team that's like even emphatically in the tournament yet. But they are in the top 12 in quad 1 and quad 2 wins.
So they would have beaten... Oh, man, what are their memorable wins? NC State did beat Clemson.
On the road, yeah, they pulled that one off in overtime.
I remember they beat Boise and Maui. What am I missing?
At Wake Forest is currently a quad 1 win because Wake Forest is 73rd in the net. VCU at home is barely a quad 2. Boise neutral. Syracuse at home is a quad 2 victory right now. Liberty at home, Ole Miss neutral, at Florida State, at Pitt. It is the least impressive collection of quad 1 and quad 2 wins you can find.
This is like getting a 2.1 GPA just so you can graduate. It's kind of what the resume feels like.
It's a pass-fail. I just barely passed. It counts. Yeah. Huh. So those are your leaders in quad 1 and quad 2 wins. It's kind of the usual suspects.
I'm picturing an article now that one of us should write. Or it's like NC State's actually overachieving versus preseason expectations.
Yeah,
we're just like, look at all these wins.
Would you rather have NC State's wins or Houston's? You figure it out. You tell me. Or Alabama's wins. They only got 9 quad 1, quad 2 wins. All right.
NC State's got more than Alabama, and they don't have an NBA player.
Exactly. Yeah. You'd much rather be Will Wade right now.
Andy Katz.
Let's get into it.
I know you can do it, Andy. I know you can do it.
He's got a list. He's got a list fired up somewhere, holstered ready to go. But Home Field Apparel, folks, we're going to give them a shout before we get into our 7-stat rotation. Home Field Apparel is the best place to get your college sports gear for the season, the upcoming run through March Madness. They've got all kinds of unique logos, both modern and retro, on a bevy of amazingly comfortable gear. You can go for t-shirts, hoodies, sweaters, jackets, hats, joggers, jerseys. Whatever it is you can think of, they probably have it. Homefieldapparel.com. Just browse, go nuts, find your UC Santa Cruz Banana Slugs, your Colorado School of Mines, whatever it is you're looking for. Perhaps it's just your alma mater, that works too. But head to homefieldapparel.com and use promo code BURNER15 for 15% off your first purchase. That is promo code BURNER15, homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right, Will, I always let you lead off. I've got a couple goofy ones. They're a little outside the box, so I'm excited to get through these back and forth. But I will kick it to you for the first of our batch.
Well, the good news for you is more than half of these were generated on my morning run, as my little hands were frozen solid from an ice feels like 23 this morning, which I gather is balmy for half the United States. But guess what? I'm a big bitch, so it's cold to me. So I was like, you've run in the cold before or whatever, and your hands, like, you try and type and it's like your thumb is moving at half speed.
Yes. You're like, have I lost muscle usage in my thumb? Yeah.
So this one I was typing out KANSAS for my number one very slowly as my thumbs were in pain. They got the big win last night, but I want to cover them for a couple of reasons. One, we have had a lot of talks lately about the Darren Peterson problem or solution, whatever it may be, whether he's going to play these games or not. And last night he did mostly play. He sat out for a little bit, but kind of seemed fine. I do find it interesting, his level of engagement on the bench. I don't know if you've noticed this. There's a little bit of a Bill Simmons body language kind of thing, but a couple of Melvin Council made threes or baskets or something in the second half last night when he was on the bench. Whole bench is clapping, and Darren Peterson's just kind of straight ahead. And that's fine. Like, you don't have to be locked in all the time. He could be locked in his own way, but I did find that interesting. For the purposes of our show, though, Darren Peterson really does revolve around the whole thing, because I know at Ken Palm they are, I'm going to guess without looking, okay, 12th. I was going to say 13th. So maybe this won't be as impressive as it sounds. But since the day Darren Peterson largely returned from injury, which was the Mizzou game, he has missed a couple of games in spurts since, but we're going to go with largely back. Kansas, 10th best team in America, top 20 offense and defense. I think this is really intriguing. Second in 2-point percentage defense allowed, fifth lowest free throw rate allowed defensively. They get to the line way more than they did last year. They still have their rebounding problem, which didn't bite them last night, but I do think will eventually. I gather that we're still kind of, it's a hard one to read, because I think going into last night, the average expectation was that they'd be a 4 seed or maybe a 3, and they'd be the most bet on 4 seed or maybe a 3, possibly in the history of the NCAA tournament. I kind of wonder, as you hinted at earlier, should we start talking about these guys as a possible 2 seed? And if so, like the potential Vegas favorite to win whatever grouping they're in.
Yeah, if they land a 2 seed and UConn's their 1 seed, you could really talk me into like the probability being higher for Kansas when they're the fully healthy version of themselves with Peterson out there. He wasn't super sharp Monday night. I thought Donovan Atwell played incredible one-on-one defense against him.
A lot of foul
And Peterson's
that I did not appreciate.
He still made some of the biggest plays of the game, though.
That
like
3
kind
to
of
win.
double,
Oh.
yeah, the double clutch one to tie it. Like he kind of had to take a second step. I didn't see anyone else point this out, but there's one side angle that I wanted to see if his heels ever hit the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like they were right above it, and I think there's a ref right there, so he probably was in bounds, but it was really, really close. Anyways, just 2 monster shots in a game that, yes, Texas Tech was shorthanded, but they were down 10, down 9, kind of seeming like they were a little bit out of it. And he just adds to the ceiling. I trust the defense, whether he's in there or not. But as you mentioned, a top 20 offense since he's been back, that is highly intriguing, kind of an eyebrow raiser. I mean, how close are you to saying national title contender? Or are they more Final Four contender with enough flaws to get stopped on the main stage? I mean, that interior defense, Badunga was sending top and hook shots into the first row last night. It was really, really impressive.
I don't know that I'm there as a title contender yet, which I know is going to infuriate people, but I like Final Four contender. Absolutely. I think that they need like one more piece, like one more upper level piece, or like a good bench piece to really push themselves to title contender status, because not that one game should ever be representative of an entire season. But let's go just the last 2. Total bench minutes played in the BYU game, 34, 25 of those by Jamari McDowell, who had 8 points. And then total bench minutes played last night, as we're recording this against Texas Tech, 20 with 3 points off the bench. Or sorry, 31 with 2 points off the bench by El Marco. I just do not fundamentally believe that is enough. I think that you need somebody off that. And we do overrate depth, I think, as a media in college basketball, especially in the offseason, where we're like, well, you need options. I do think that, for better or for worse, John Calipari has done a really good job of going like against type here and like only rostering 9 playable guys so that you just don't have to pick. Like, but the problem is Kansas right now only seems to have 6.5 maybe playable. And like that really worries me come like, I mean, and again, this is last night while getting basically a 0 from Bryson Tiller. I would say he was good defensively, but offensively, no impact whatsoever. After having a very big impact against BYU.
Yep.
I'm worried, curious, questioning about the strategy there of like potentially rolling in, as we said, as a 2 seed into the NCAA tournament with possibly 6 guys you trust.
Yeah, I was texting with a Kansas grad friend of mine, a degenerate gambler, so he's locked in on this game. It's like, I'm on Kansas money line. I'm mad at the bench, but that to your point, he's like, look at our bench stats. These guys have played like 15 combined minutes. There's no baskets, and my reply was like, well, I'd rather have Darren Peterson using every possession than Jamari McDowell firing up threes. but you'd still like a little bit of contribution. Like the Jaden Dawson transfer being a complete bust has been really hurtful to the bench. Paul Lumbia, the athletic big man that they kind of stole, I think, from NC State, that was supposed to be a useful piece off the bench and has been nothing at all. And El Marco's been up and down. He had some huge games in Vegas in the players era, but hasn't really had those as much in league play. And yeah, McDowell's just kind of what he is. So you're pretty prone to one or two guys having off nights. And yeah, I don't think they need to go 10 deep, but you want to be able to trust your top 7 or so and be able to get some contributions from them. And it seems really up and down for them. And at this point, yeah, a little more down to your point, like that, just not a lot of punch in the last 2 games. You need Peterson, you need Melvin Council, and one night in March and suddenly one off night in March, suddenly they're out.
Can I give you a structural similarity here that is probably not statistically sound, but is one that I immediately thought of as we were talking?
I'm ready for it.
Evan Turner, Ohio State. That final Evan Turner team where it was basically just Evan Turner and John Diebler off ball screens. And they had almost zero bench involvement at all after about mid-January. I can remember the Tennessee game. I don't think that they played more than 6 guys. I think it was just 6 players. And I will, probably look like an idiot, but okay, 7. So they played 7. But in that game, Diebler, Evan Turner, and William Buford all played the full 40 because they had to. And so I'm worried for Kansas's sake that a similar situation could develop where they just don't have enough playable guys. And it's not that they're bad, they just don't trust them. And, it's great to have the upper end star talent, but in the event, like it's kind of like shot volume in a way to me, where like if you're not making the shots, you need a backup plan. What's the Kansas backup plan on March, whatever, if Darren Peterson goes 5 of 16 from the field?
Or if he cramps up.
Yeah.
Where do you go? And I think Self said in the offseason, I think they went after Dame Sarr, they went after Darian Williams, and he had wished they could have gotten one more piece. And Cole Rosario was kind of the break in case of emergency panic button, but he should be a senior in high school, and he has been pretty far outclassed thus far in his college career. So it does seem like they're going to need major contributions from their top guys every single night. Badunga's consistent. Trey White's been remarkably consistent. Council's effort level is always there. But Peterson is the major swing on the offense, and there's not a lot of alternatives. My first stat is kind of in coordination with this. The number is 13, and that is the number of matchups still to play between the top 6 of the Big 12, which I'm pumped about. We just had a great one last night with Kansas and Texas Tech. We're recording this Tuesday morning for you listening on Wednesday. But the schedule is so backloaded in this league. I cannot wait to have all these teams get together. Arizona has 6 more games against the other top teams. I know people are starting to highlight how their schedule just really stiffens up down the stretch. Iowa State's got 5, Kansas and Houston 4 each, Tech and BYU 3 each of these remaining games. None of Texas Tech's are at home. That's kind of notable. Like their resume building is going to be awfully difficult now at this point. Maybe they can get it done on the road. They've done it a little bit already, but that's worth noting. I can't wait to have these teams go head to head. I tweeted yesterday on Monday that Iowa State hasn't played a significant game in a couple weeks since they lost 2 in a row. It's time to get them back in the flow on national TV against a really good team, and we're about to get it, thankfully.
Yeah, let me read these for you. So this is from Saturday. Yeah, Saturday's the 7th, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm too stupid to pull up a calendar. All right, this is just the this is just the next 14 days, February 7th through 21st. Houston at BYU on the 7th. Arizona at Kansas, Big Monday on the 9th. Valentine's Day, don't make any plans, boys, or make them early. Or be a smart guy, unlike me, and make them on February 13th.
There it is.
Kansas at Iowa State, Texas Tech at Arizona, both on the 14th. I have a bad feeling Texas Tech at Arizona is like a 10 p.m. game, unfortunately. I need to check.
Oh, God. I'll find out.
If you live in a satanic time zone like I do. Houston at Iowa State on Big Monday, the 16th. BYU at Arizona 18th, and then February 21st, Armageddon, baby. Arizona at Houston. Along with Iowa State. Well, how about this for an undercard, by the way? Iowa State at BYU.
Yeah, I think I could tolerate watching that. Yep. Hey, I have good news for you. Texas Tech at Arizona is 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN.
I've got bad news for you. That's when dinner's scheduled.
Well, hey, you can at least come home to Gonzaga at Santa Clara at 10:30 p.m. Eastern.
That's true. We had this whole family discussion of I've talked about it on here before. My sister-in-law had her child back in August, and they're like coming over, and this is a real like cousin Sal style moment for me as a cousin Sal style individual. Where I was like, they're like, oh, we want to go out and get like, late lunch, early dinner type of thing Saturday. There's this really nice, bar and grill here. And in the back of my head, I was like, can we get home by 6:30 for Duke, North Carolina? but I can't tell them that.
Yes, just it'd be helpful to be home by then, just to wind the night
like
down.
I can't see in the dark very well.
Yeah. Got to find the non-basketball excuse to justify the basketball reasoning. I like it. But yes, the schedule is getting better. I know the Big Ten's fairly backloaded too. All the Michigan State, Purdue, Illinois matchups are pretty late in the season too. So very excited for what is to come in college hoops, and that might still be a theme with one of my next numbers. But I will go back to you, Will, for your number 2.
Man, I'm thinking I should have covered U of M or MSU. I feel like an idiot for not putting them on this list. I just didn't think of it in time. But my number 2, I have 2 SEC wins, and I'm debating which one to go first, but I'm going to go with a bigger headline. So we know Kentucky's 6-1 over their last 7 games. Big storyline. I would like for you to guess for me where they rank in Torvik over this time.
Ooh, man, they haven't really been blowing people out, and I guess it doesn't factor in that they've been losing in a bunch of these games. But at Arkansas, I'll say they're like 23rd,
43rd.
Oh boy,
43rd. So
I guess getting smashed by Vandy, it was hurtful.
It was hurtful, but this just sort of goes for the point of I'm not really sold yet, and Kentucky does have a fortunate-ish schedule. So they play Oklahoma the day you'll be hearing this. They draw Tennessee at Rupp on Saturday. And that matchup after a long period of it slanting towards Tennessee, has begun to swing back to Kentucky over the last few years. So I'm interested to see how that one goes. But beyond that, their final 7 games, 5 of them will be underdogs. Florida, both games, road Auburn, road A&M, and then Vandy at home, probably a toss-up. I look, I think it's fine and dandy that they've won all these games. I'm not going to, act butthurt about it, as they say. But I just can't quite get there with the trust factor yet. And a big reasoning is the last 8 minutes of these games. I would like for you to get over the last 7, by the way. Can you guess the 3-point shooting splits for me?
Oh, I would love to. I feel like it's going to be, what was it, George Mason that had the kind of incredible ones that we've talked about on this show before. Mm-hmm. I'll say Kentucky's shooting like 48% from 3 and their opponents are 21.
It'd be nice if you were right, but you aren't. 45% to 8.
8.
8.
Oh boy.
That's more than 7. It's less than 9.
Sustainability
8.
there.
Yeah. I am happily, well, not happily, that's kind of rude. I'm just going to call bullshit on this being sustainable, because the rest of these games, don't know if you know this, buddy, they're being outscored on average in the first 32 minutes of their last 7 games by 6 points per 100.
Not great. It's part of a 6-1 stretch.
Yeah. And so like the turnovers and rebounding doesn't really meaningfully change. Kentucky does get to the foul line a lot more in the final minutes of these games. I will wager that is part O-way and part like just, I don't know, kind of game script, like teams fouling late. I don't have the full stats in front of me on this one, but I'm going to wager it's a little bit of both.
Yep.
But I am also going to wager that Kentucky is not going to continue shooting 45% from 3 while their opponents shoot 8% in the final 8 minutes of every game. So I don't think it's going to matter against Oklahoma for sure. But the rest of the way, they're no more than a 6-point favorite in any game, and that's at home against Georgia, against a pretty scrappy Georgia group. I don't know, man. I'm not ready to call it yet. Even with the road win at Arkansas, which is highly impressive, major hat tip there, I'm not ready.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm sold either. That at Arkansas game surprised me. I thought they'd get run out at Bud Walton because typically Arkansas is awesome in that hype home environment, and Kentucky had struggled badly away from home. But they get that win. I'm with you. The sustainability of what they're doing. I know they've got pretty strong interior defense. It seems like Pope's getting better with lineups. I think Kentucky fans are even like, okay, we're not going as nuts about it anymore. But and they actually played like a good wire to wire game against Arkansas. It didn't take a feverish comeback. But some of the shots Denzel Aberdeen's hitting, they're heavily reliant on Chandler. And then after that, I don't know who's making shots with Cam Williams out. It's kind of alarming. I'm not sold either, Will. I know you posted or posited early in the season, are they going to enter the NCAA tournament more or less, or the SEC tournament with more or less than 10 losses? And it's still trending very much like they're going to be around 11 or 12 based on the schedule. Now, the advantage is they get to play Florida twice, who can't shoot. So maybe they will keep shooting 8% their opponents. But yeah, I wouldn't be like, oh, it's all fixed just because of the Arkansas win.
Well, and before we get to the end of this point, during this stretch, so this is per 100 numbers. And these are, I would not, it's not like bad competition by any stretch of the imagination. Like Tennessee, Vandy, Arkansas, all good teams. I would even argue that Texas is like fine, good. They'll make the tournament, I would say. Like LSU's not though. But plus 0.6 per 100 on the boards, plus 0.1 per 100 in turnover margin. That's like you're breaking even in shot volume, and you're getting this extraordinarily lucky run from three when you need it. Have you heard of I feel like you have the term cluster luck in baseball.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
very much so.
for the uninitiated, and you tell me if I'm messing this up. Cluster luck in baseball is just like essentially timing your hits for when people get on base. So like if you only had 8 hits in a game, but they all came when like you had 2 men on base or a man on second or whatever, that would be considered cluster luck. Whereas if you had 8 leadoff singles and nothing after, you'd be really unlucky. I think Kentucky is perhaps dealing with a really, really good run of cluster luck.
Yeah, no, it just means they're clutch, Will. That's what that's what the optimistic fan would say is like, no, we're just really good when runners are on base.
Every ESPN commentator would say in the history of mankind.
Yeah, that's what everybody wants it to be. But
the good news is on ESPN you can only hear the announcers.
Yeah, perfect. I'm gonna just build off this, Will, because one of my numbers was Kentucky related. The number was 13 again. My first 2 numbers, 13. That's a little theme I did in my set of numbers here.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the number of 3-point attempts that Kentucky took against Arkansas, which at least in that regard, they aren't heavily reliant on volume from 3. I know the splits for making them, the success rate, are certainly very friendly to Kentucky, but they did out rebound Arkansas 35-26. They took 43 twos in this game. I also kind of want to pivot it to point at Arkansas and say what's going on with Carter Knox is a complete 0. Nick Pringle a 0. It's kind of too much Acuff and Thomas in Brazil right now. They need a little more outside of that. The one thing that I like about Kentucky right now is their interior defense is outstanding. They're 4th in the conference in points per possession allowed. They're number 1 in block rate. They're number 2 in average 2-point attempt distance allowed. So they're forcing tough jumpers. And if you get to the rim, they're swatting it. But yeah, I'm not sold on like the offense being fully sustainable. It's only 8th in the league. They're under 50% from 2 in conference play. I think there's a lot of frustration to come still with Florida twice, Auburn, Georgia, Vandy, Texas A&M, Tennessee. It might not be quite rosy. And I know Kentucky fans are probably ready to fire Mark Pope the second they lose their next game. But I think
they'd never do that.
This would not be a team I'm like optimistic about in the first round of the tournament.
Let me read you a headline. I had a guy, Sean Vinsel, who I think listens to this. He used to run a blog called Hoops Insight. Let me find it was a headline from a Kentucky blog at the weekend. Oh, okay. So I want you. This is from. I think it's a Sea of Blue. This is the headline. So lock in. The fall of Rome. Who is to blame for the collapse of Kentucky basketball?
Collapse of Kentucky. Man, that is
The fall of
dramatized
Rome.
for sure. Look, you'd like them to be in
They're
the top
calling. They're
5?
calling John Calipari the Trojan horse.
Wow. Wow. I guess they've been top 10 once in Ken Palm since 2019. That's sure. I guess you
Ty
want more with the
Washington is
resources that go
he's in
in.
the Odyssey alongside Travis Scott.
Recasted with Christopher Nolan, who's directing in college basketball world. I don't know. Adolph Rupp is out of his grave to direct.
Arkansas
But
wise, I do want to touch on them really quick.
go for it.
I've had this thing the past few years where I like try and maybe it's just old man yells at cloud stuff, and it certainly is at the ripe old age of 32. The TikTok team of the year, where the teams like people who don't really watch college basketball believe this team is way better than it is based on highlights alone and quote unquote aura. Arkansas is once again that team. They don't defend, and the offense is almost entirely just like, wow, let's see how many tough shots we can hit tonight. And when that works, it is awesome to watch. I totally get it. And when it doesn't, as it didn't against Kentucky, and as it came really freaking close to not doing so against Oklahoma and LSU, I don't know. I've seen the comments about like this team could either be in the Final Four or lose in the first round. Uh, do we all have amnesia? Did we forget that this team was the exact Kentucky team 2 years ago?
Yeah, the high variance, offense reliant.
They
Yeah,
just better hope Oakland doesn't win.
look out for
Start
Great Campy
rooting for
Zone,
Youngstown
folks.
State in the Horizon League.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's been a lot of like the discussion around Arkansas as well, highest ceiling in the SEC, and I think Florida has showed recently that they pretty
Yeah.
clearly have the highest ceiling. But it's just because they have the professional talent in the background. They've got a John Calipari point guard again in the vein of D Rose or whoever you want to put in that group with Acuff. But man, they haven't gotten much sophomore progression from Richmond and Knox. Brazil, Ewan, Pringle haven't completely dominated the interior like you'd hope. I'm shocked they're 14th in 2-point percentage allowed in the SEC. They just haven't really figured that out on
They
the
are
defensive end,
worst
despite
defensive. They are worse defensively in SEC play than Mississippi State.
Oof. That's not great.
They have
That is
one
not good.
player. They're playing 1-on-5 every game, and they've got a better defense than Arkansas.
Yeah, it's just it's not a consistent footprint. Like the way that their defense comes and goes, their engagement level kind of comes and goes. Even like the home game against LSU had to come from behind to win that game. Didn't look locked in the whole time. Maybe you get the best version of it for 4 straight games in March, but I'm not sold on that, and I don't think they have the depth of consistency. Their depth is not consistent enough to me fully believe it.
I do have a bad feeling that they, while being the TikTok team of the year, could also be the Miami Heat team of the year. Where like you and I, like the people who have watched this team in the regular season, like this team's not going far, and then it's like a like a ghost, like a zombie uprising. You're like, oh Jesus, zombie Arkansas is back in the Elite Eight.
Yep. Yeah. It's just I think the comparison there is apt of the Miami Heat of like, why are they so much better in the playoffs? Like, what is going on? Why is this?
Yeah, like so you don't have
focus
star.
level
Like
coaching.
you're telling me that I gotta believe. What was that guy Haywood Highsmith?
Oh yeah, Haywood Highsmith knocking down threes all day.
And you're just like, I gotta know who Haywood Highsmith is now. We're gonna get to
Well,
March, and I'm like, Jesus, I gotta know who Nick Pringle is. Nick Pringle
as
just
a
made,
fan of
Nick Pringle just had 16 and 12.
as a fan of Giannis Bucks, who have lost to the Heat multiple times in the playoffs despite being the clear better team,
Ugh.
this one hurts me. And Giannis is on the way out. But hey, that's neither here nor there. We are a college basketball podcast, so well, we're gonna pivot to your third number before I start crying.
Oh, please don't cry on air. I've only done it numerous times. So we had a great result this weekend for some, not really for me, I guess, but because my team just beat this team. But one, Alabama now 1-2 with an NBA player on the roster. Have to mention it too. Alabama has a real March problem, and I haven't really seen this brought up yet. I ran the numbers for this week's watch list at Basket Under Review. So this is per 100 numbers using turnover percentage and rebounding percentage. Alabama this year is minus 0.2 per 100 in turnover margin, minus 1.8 in rebounding margin. Do you know the last team to make the Sweet 16 with negative turnover and rebounding margins?
Oh boy, what a question.
I'm just
Somebody
going to
that's
say they had a
probably very
five-star freshman on their team.
Oklahoma State, Cade Cunningham. Did they even make the Sweet 16? I don't remember.
No, they lost to Oregon State.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
It
Good
was
call.
2006, 2007 USC with OJ Mayo.
Ooh.
So you're
Ooh.
only looking to break a 19-year streak if you're Alabama. And so that's what I find worrying about them. As we mentioned last week, I do believe that somewhere in the soul of this team, there's like a 3 or a 4 seed. And I don't really get super concerned with like the number of threes they take or how fast they play. Those are kind of like the pushbacks for, it seems like commentators are really hammering the 3-point rate now, where it's like they just take too many threes. Well, okay, we said that about Villanova, and then Villanova won 2 titles. So I don't know. I'm not going to worry about that much. But the fact that they don't force turnovers at all ever, and the fact that they still haven't fixed defensive rebounding at all with Bediako, which was, again, as we mentioned last week, his worst attribute as a player at Alabama, aside from some of the offensive stuff. I remain really concerned about this Alabama team going forward. And what's interesting is by the time we next record, if I've read correctly, we will know if Bediako is or is not eligible the rest of the way. And given that the Alabama graduate judge was recused from the case, I mean, we'll see. It kind of seems truly up in the air. But even with a full strength Bediako, I saw some commentators, and we're not going to name names, calling them like a title contender, potential top 6-8 team, whatever. I just don't see it because the numbers aren't there to sustain it. They would have to shoot the lights out or have the opponent shoot at the lights for 4 straight games to have yet another Final Four run.
Yeah, the underlying stuff, that shot volume is not good. You need multiple 3-point variance games in a row where you're hitting 10 to 15 threes and the opponent's not hitting any. There's a good stat in the Number Nerds thread in the burner from Bontemps. He said the only team in the country worse than Alabama at forcing non-steal turnovers is whoever is playing Alabama. Like, it just doesn't happen in their games. They're 365th in forcing non-steal turnovers, and they're second in preventing them. But that's just like, neither team's uncomfortable when they play. Their defense doesn't get you out of sorts. You're not forcing travels or shot clock violations or charges, any of that stuff that's not a steal, they don't do. And to still also be outside the top 300 in defensive rebound rate, it's not a great combination when you're focused on shot volume. So you just have to make shots every night and hope the other team doesn't. And the most damning thing from that Florida loss to me was that Florida shot 3 of 13 from deep, 17 of 26 from the free throw line, and they still scored 1.3 points per possession and won by 23. It was just a thorough physical thrashing. And not many teams can do it the way Florida can, but still, Alabama's got to be kind of looking in the mirror and figuring out if there's any way to solve what you're saying, the turnover or the rebounding issue.
And that just opens them up for me to, like, if they, so right now at Torvik, they're projected as a 5 seed, which I think is probably about where they'll land. Somewhere in that 4 to 6 range does feel right, ultimately. Like, on one hand, I would be like, oh, Alabama's style is such that against pretty much every Q3 and Q4 they've played for the last couple of years, they've either run away or, won by enough to be fine. Like, even looking at this year against some pretty decent, actual Q2s at home, like USF, they won by 11, Yale, they won by 24. I don't think that, against an average 11 through 13 seed, they'd be in trouble. There are certain specific matchups, and especially once they get to the second round, like, this team just isn't physical at all. Like, it is the least physical version of Nate Oates basketball that I've seen since his very first team that would have missed the NCAA tournament. And, they have a great backcourt. Like, Philon is still amazing. Aiden Holloway is awesome. Amari Allen has been a really good bright spot. Aiden Sherrill honestly doesn't get the credit he deserves either as a nice offensive big. But it all goes without saying, like, they don't play defense well enough, and they don't, they basically don't provide themselves a backup plan if the shots don't go in.
Yep. Yeah. You think back to some of the really like some of the older Nate Oates offenses, they ranked top 25 in offensive rebound rate for 3 straight years. This year is 145th. Like that's kind of there's no alternative. The shots don't go in, they're not getting more shots like they were in those seasons. So I that's probably leaves them a little more prone to upset, a little more high variance. They haven't had like the stinker performance this year. Like if your worst loss is at home to Texas, I'll forgive you. But yeah, I think like you mentioned, second round, somebody can probably be content with having to play them because there's ways to beat them. There's multiple ways to beat them.
Yeah.
All right, my number 3 stat. This goes back to my first one. Just harkening back to the excitement I have for the schedule. 2 is the number, and that is the number of UConn St. John's and UNC Duke games that we still have left. And they're both starting up this weekend. We've got the UConn at St. John's Madison Square Garden game on Friday night. Going to be a hot ticket in NYC. Every single college basketball media person will be there, I assume, kind of hyping it up. You're going to have John Fanta at an absolute 11 on what the Big East is going to be like. And then UNC Duke on Saturday. And now these conferences don't quite have like the meat of national title contenders the way the Big 10, the Big 12 do. But both of these backloaded schedule meetings are going to be electric, and I'm pumped that we're starting with them this weekend. So the month ahead of basketball for us is as good as you can get.
The St. John's UConn game in particular, I'm really excited for. UNC Duke kind of goes without saying. It's just such a staple of the sport, but UConn St. John's getting 2 of those. Have you seen, you're aware of the rapper Big X the Plug, correct?
I have never heard that in my life.
Okay.
I'm an old man.
I think it's either the biggest or the largest. I don't remember what it is. But he's a pretty big guy. I think you should look up a picture of him just to like understand what I'm talking. He's a large man. Let me know when you see a picture of him and what position you think he might play in a 3-4 defense.
Oh my! I'm going to slot him in a nose tackle.
Yes, you would plug the gap on 3rd and 1.
Yeah.
But and at his shows, I only know a couple of his songs, but I've seen like multiple videos of him performing. And because he sweats so much, he rips off his shirt like in the first song. And so he's just doing every show shirtless.
Okay, so he's Bert Kreischer is what you're telling me.
Yeah, so I think Fanta should do, after like tip-off, UConn St. John shirtless. Just like rip it off, like stand the whole time on the sidelines. I don't know who's going to be calling the game with him, hopefully Raftery. Yeah, I think it'd be a good fit for the game. And for
the
his
Big East sport coat. Big East sport coat that he has with all the logos, just wear that to go with a shirtless underneath. I think that's the mode. I think just both these games are going to be huge. We haven't really seen UConn or St. John's play a surefire NCAA tournament team in a while. I guess Villanova slipped into St. John's schedule, but they took care of business at the NBA arena in Philadelphia. It's just time for these two teams to play a huge game. Hurley and Pitino on the big stage. They've got to both get through tests tonight as we're recording this. Tests, I guess I say, and with air quotes, Xavier's going to UConn and St. John's is on the road at DePaul here in my hometown of Chicago. But I just can't wait for this one Friday night with all the focus on it, the theatrics, and it'll lead into a great Saturday of basketball as well. So give me to those matchups and all the Big 12, the Big 10, ACC, the ones they have to offer. It's just an excitement pod. That's what I'm throwing out to people.
One complaint about Saturday that I forgot to mention earlier. So we have 5. It's nerdy, but I do like using Ken Palm's fan matches like a tool to see like what the biggest games of the day are. So you got Houston, BYU, Illinois, Michigan State, Alabama, Auburn, Florida A&M, which is a surprisingly big game, Tennessee, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina. All great games. Why are 3 of them all tipping off at 8 p.m. at the same time?
Yeah, and 2 of them on the ESPN family of networks. Spread them out, ESPN.
Yep, why don't we put one at 2? I don't see anything in the schedule at 2.
Yeah, Butler at Marquette isn't catching your eye there at the bottom of the Big East.
I'm salivating for Ole Miss, Texas. I need that. Like, come on, just shove one up there. Or a nooner. What would be bad about putting one at noon? I know college kids don't love it, but sorry, I'm 32. I'm too old for that.
Yeah, exactly. They can get up early and start drinking at 8. That was always a highlight as a college kid.
Well,
Give me an excuse to do that.
One of my best memories in college at Tennessee was waking up at like 10:30 and traipsing over to TBA to watch the Anthony Davis-led Kentucky team play a nooner at Tennessee.
Yeah,
Like I would never forget that.
That sounds great, and that's what people should want. Yeah, just spread the schedule out more with that caliber of games. We don't need them clustered like that. That's bad cluster luck, Will. That's what I'm gonna call it back. All right, to our fourth numbers here. What do you got?
I have one that has been building for me for a while, and I've held off on pulling it out until I felt it was timely. And I think it is with their loss to Kansas at the weekend and with an 0-2 week last week in general. I think BYU has a quality opponent problem. So against top 50 teams, they're 4-4, which on its face is not a bad record at all. That's perfectly fine. They've played like the 21st best team against these teams, which, while not excellent, that's still top 25 quality. I'm not going to complain too much about that. The problem, they play fundamentally different in these games and not in a good way. So their assist rate against top 50 competition is 42%. That means over half of their made baskets are unassisted one-on-one makes, which when you have the talent they have is not necessarily a bad thing. But it's pretty alarming when compared against the rest of their schedule. The non-top 50 games, they have a 53% assist rate. Their 2-point percentage drops by a full 8%. Their 3-point percentage drops as well. Their defense is 58th best in the nation in these games. This is important to me because, right now, again, using Torvik's numbers, we'll see how the season goes. BYU is slated as about a 5 seed. So that means they're going to be favored in their first round game. And given that their losses so far are UConn, Texas Tech, Arizona, and Kansas, and given their performances against non-top 50 competition, I think BYU is probably going to be fine with whoever they play in the first round. I don't think that will be the most worrisome thing in the world. My wonder and fear is what happens to BYU after the first round. Like when you start drawing better competition, when you start having to play these top 50 opponents, on a neutral court. Like the 4-4 record is nice, but what that's excluding and what that's kind of, overruling a little bit, that, one of those wins coming back from 22 against Clemson, having to overcome a first half deficit against a Miami team that's trending in the wrong direction, scrapping it out with Villanova on opening night. The only decisive win they've had in any of these was the Wisconsin game. And that kind of looks more like an aberration than any sort of proof of concept in hindsight.
Yep, I'm pulling up the stat on Hoop Explorer that I actually didn't know they had until B. Kervick in the Discord pulled it up for Seton Hall. But BYU's first and second half splits are staggering too. Mm-hmm. Like they just kind of dig themselves a hole consistently. Per Hoop Explorer, they have the raw net rating of the 79th team in the first half. Like they're not an NCAA tournament caliber team in the first half. And then the second half, they have the number 1 net rating in the entire country on a raw basis and on an adjusted basis. Part of that is in the first half, they're shooting 28.5% from 3. And in the second half, they're shooting 45.4% from 3, the number 1 mark in the entire country in the second half. So shot making has completely been a part of this, but I'd also say like focus level and offensive flow and some of their defensive numbers are much better in the second half. I don't know if they just get better touches for Debanza, but they've got to figure that out. You can't keep digging holes against good teams because, yes, they got out of it against Clemson, but they couldn't quite do it against UConn. They couldn't quite get out of it against Kansas. And with some of their other issues, you just can't be starting that slowly. And that's something I think is really worth monitoring with BYU as well.
So the odd thing about them to me, and I wondered if you would pick up on this, is that the way that they can lose in the NCAA tournament is the exact way they won in the round of 32 last year, where they, if you recall, they built a pretty huge lead in Wisconsin, right? 14, 15 points. And then just kind of sat back as Wisconsin roared back and nearly won that game. I feel like that's going to be BYU's game script in their presumed round of 32 loss this year. They're going to get way down. We'll, guess 14 or whatever at halftime. And then with about, 10 minutes left, we're going to see the switch flip. Debanza is going to score 14 or whatever in the final 10 minutes. Richie Saunders is going to make a big 3. And then suddenly it's going to be the final possession with BYU having a chance to win it outright. It's just like at some point, and I don't know, it is statistically very unusual for a team to have splits this large. Extremely rare. Especially reverse splits. Usually, if you see large splits, it's being really good out of the break and then just kind of running out of steam in the second. I don't know. I would like to see this either proven or disproven over these final few weeks, because if they simply were more focused out of the gate, I do think this BYU team would have won at least one or two more games.
Yep, the talent level is clearly there. The individual scoring ability is so high, but as you mentioned, they get a lot of unassisted buckets, and it becomes a labor sometimes for Wright and for Devanza to score. Whereas Saunders is more comfortable within an offense and in the flow and getting catch and shoot type stuff. So it's something they need to solve as they move towards the postseason if they want to be their best version. All right, my number 4 stat is number 4. Well, the number is 4. And that is what Duke ranks on both offense and defense per KenPom. And I'm just kind of starting to realize, okay, maybe Duke is, if not on the level of last year, they are right up there among the elite again. And I know it's been pointed out their efficiency margins above 35. I think 33 is a cutoff that like everybody above 33 makes the Final Four over the years with their pre-tournament ranking. Duke still doesn't even seem fully settled. They're still changing starting lineups a little bit. They just moved Kaminia into the starting lineup last game. They have been on a tear overall. They've won 6 of their last 7 by 11 plus. The only one they didn't was Boopy Miller absent SMU. So that was kind of surprising. But Cam Boozer's consistency has kind of carried over into the team. He hasn't scored less than 17 since November 18th. He's pretty much putting up 25 to 30 every single night when it matters. Is Duke kind of like hiding in plain sight, Will, or do you think they're getting the appropriate love that they deserve?
It is kind of interesting. So I don't remember who said this, but somebody said, why aren't we talking about Duke? And I was like, well, Jesus, we talk about Duke every year. I think we're good to have them off the radar for a couple of weeks. But
yep.
I do think it's just a function of the schedule, because they have essentially only played 1 or 2, I guess, marquee games since Christmas, and it was both Louisville games. And, for better or for worse, at least one of those, I would say the second, which was a Monday night preceding Arizona BYU. So it was an undercard on that night. So they haven't really played the marquee game of a day since January 6th. And like they're going to get that opportunity Saturday. It's going to be big and all that. But I wonder, well, one, I know the ACC is too big, because in a better version of this ACC, like they would certainly be playing Miami, who's not on the schedule for reasons known only to God. And they would probably play NC State twice. Maybe you'd play UVA twice. Like a smaller version of this league would really have helped. But
would be way more fun.
Yeah, we flew past that coop a long time ago. But I do kind of wonder also if they can beat UNC, which they're 6-point favorites at KenPom. I think that's going to sort of end the under the radar thing quickly, because then we're going to have 2 full weeks of build up to Duke, Michigan on the 21st.
Yep. Yeah. Just looking at it, but they're not going to have any lack of discussion, because looking at their schedule, their final 5 Saturday games are at UNC versus 18-4 Clemson, neutral Michigan, home Virginia, home UNC. Like they're playing an awesome team every single Saturday through the end of the season, a team that's going to be in the NCAA tournament. So lots of discussion coming for Duke, but I will give them a little bit of shine already, because they have the top 5 unit on both ends of the floor. Only Arizona is the only other team that can say that. Michigan's offense isn't quite there. And it's kind of been a slow burn, because they had fallen back to 9th in KenPom early in January. And then they've just been kind of demolishing the mid part of the ACC. It hasn't been quite beaten up on the bad teams. It's not like it's been Boston College and Pitt, but Stanford, Cal, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, just handling those teams. And now we're excited to see it against the top portion of that conference. All right, your 5th stat, Will, to you.
241st. Over the last 10 games, this is Seton Hall's offensive ranking at Torvik. And I almost went with
it's kind of a Holloway trend.
I almost went even worse over the last 10, 364th, which is their effective field goal percentage ranking over the last 10 games. There's 365
Ooh.
teams in college basketball. I don't know if you know that. The only team worse is poor Western Illinois, who at least has the excuse of being Western Illinois.
Yeah, exactly.
This Seton Hall team really did run out of the gate, like got that huge Maui win over NC State, played very well against USC most of the way of that game, could have won, but have lost 4 in a row earlier this, I guess, last month now in Big East play. Did recover with a couple of nice, decent-ish wins against Xavier and Marquette. Marquette especially, they easily could have lost that game. But I think they've slipped off the radar a bit because a month ago at this time, I think they would have been 70-ish% to make the tournament, I would say. And right now at Torvik, they're at 29%. And I have to bring this up because this is a Big East that I think only is going to have 3 teams make the field at this point: UConn, St. John's, Villanova. Seton Hall is not trending in a good direction for getting in. Like, they are, I think, right at the cut line the last time I checked in WAB, which is usually 45th. I think they're exactly 45th. And they have 2 games this week that they're going to be underdogs in, at Villanova, at Creighton. And I understand, Creighton is not good this year, but those last 10 games, Seton Hall ranks 95th total in the nation. Like, even a top 20 defense is not going to be enough to carry them. So I'm curious, do you believe that there's a way for them to get back on track? And is there a minimum number of games, like wins, they have to get heading into MSG to feel okay?
Yeah. I think they've got to have 5. Like, I don't think you want to be 10-10 in the Big East, especially a bad Big East. So getting to 11-9 would be massive. Per Bartorvik, they're only favored in 3 of their games, but Xavier on the road, Butler on the road, Creighton on the road are all pretty close to pick them. So enough that they've got a chance to win. Then you've got the needle moving opportunities at UConn. Does Hurley find a way to lose at home to Seton Hall instead of at Seton Hall this year? And then hosting St. John's in the finale. That's going to be a massive one for them. But yeah, the offense is just, it's broken. And I mentioned the first and second half splits with BYU. That stat originated from B. Kervick looking at Seton Hall's splits, because they've just been like gangbusters in the second half after looking bad in the first half. They needed to rescue themselves against Marquette in the second half. They had to do the same thing against Xavier in the second half. They've got to find some way to come out of there with a little more rhythm. And I know when he was at St. Peter's, Holloway got a lot of praise for the sets they ran and getting Doug Edert open for big threes against better teams in crucial moments. This team doesn't have that kind of structure offensively. It's a lot of just Bud Clark, kind of get wherever you can and throw it up, and hopefully we'll get it on the offensive glass. I just don't know how sustainable that is. I like watching the defense play, but yeah, Seton Hall could be getting close to falling out of the field after what was such a strong non-conference performance.
And it would be a shame, especially for a league that I would argue does it the right way. The only of the Power Fives to do a true round robin. The only, at this point, seemingly, of the Power Fives to feel regionally reasonable. I know Creighton is in Omaha, but still a very Catholic university. I think that's fine. I've seen some stuff about them maybe adding St. Louis. We'll see. I don't want it to happen. Sorry. I like my round robin as it is. So
yep.
I don't know. I would like for the Big East to get a 4th in, but it's looking less and less likely by the day.
Yeah, you're talking to a guy that's written an article 9 years ago at 3-Man Weave, and then I think last year or over the offseason at The Athletic about making every conference 11 teams max so that every conference could have a double round robin. And I created conferences to do it, and it's a whole fun exercise. But yes, I firmly support double round robins, and I wish that every other conference had it. But yeah, the Big East trending hard towards 3. How do you even get to 5? Is it Butler or
it would have
Providence
to be
Seton
Hall would have to win at least 5 of the final 10, possibly 6, and then you need a shock champion in MSG.
Yeah, I don't think you can get to 5 at larges. I think that's the worry there. But,
God,
all right.
Providence
Well,
coming through an MSG would be really funny.
it's possible. They've got that weird upside. But, all right. My fifth number is 1. And that is the number of times in January that Gonzaga surrendered 1.0 points per possession or more. And I know it's the WCC, but they did play St. Mary's. The only team to break that number was Santa Clara at 1.05 points per possession. The defense is up to number 8 in the country. Yes, I would say no Huff kind of tilts them that way. But their trio of defenders in Innocenti, Worley, and Grant Foster is ridiculous. When that trio shares the floor this Will, it's only been 37 minutes, so small sample, but they have an 80 defensive rating per CBB Analytics. It would be the best in the country by far, 100th percentile, easy. And that's like 3 super switchy, strong, athletic, disruptive defenders. Throw in Saint Superi on the ball. He's a great disruptor. Just anybody with size around the rim. That's kind of eye-popping to me because in the past couple of years, the weakness has been, can Gonzaga get stops when it needs to? This year's team can. It's just a matter of where do they get seated because the schedule hasn't quite been as strong as they had hoped for when they slotted it. And is the offense going to be right with Huff reintegrating him right before the tournament?
They have to be really bummed that all of Oklahoma, Creighton, Maryland, and Oregon whiffed this year. Because like preseason, maybe not Oklahoma, but I'm definitely recalling the other 3 were like tournament-ish. Creighton certainly was because they were top 25, right?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Oklahoma was going to be good. They're like about where they started in KenPom, but even like UCLA and Kentucky have drastically underperformed.
So they got really unlucky on their schedule this year, and honestly, they also got unlucky that they drew Michigan at Players Era. I think if they drew Michigan now, that game might be a little different, but they're lucky in the sense that the WCC has developed a third good team this year, which is nice. I think having Santa Clara is really going to help. But yeah, this is the first Gonzaga team in a few years, not like Chet, but in a little bit, that I've just like the defense feels like the true out and out best unit. And it's unusual for Gonzaga because I am used to the offense being the star of the show, but they're built kind of more like the 2016-17 team with the big boys down low. And I don't think it's as good as that team. I'm not sure any Gonzaga team could possibly be as great as that one was, but they are really strong, fantastic on the boards, fantastic at producing turnovers. I really like them, and we're kind of in a weird waiting period where like the WCC is structured as such to where now like we don't really have to pay attention to them again until Valentine's Day when they're at Santa Clara. And then beyond that, like maybe San Fran can give them a good one at home. But then beyond that, it's like, okay, we'll check back in on February 28th. I do think that, so they're moving to the Pac-12. It could help that, like, I believe there they'll draw like Utah State and a couple of others. So maybe that'll be good. But yeah, I don't know. I know that they're a great team. And I'm not really worried about like their KenPom rank slipping in conference play. I think like they're just kind of bored and they're injured too.
Yep. Yeah. The KenPom rank isn't that high, and they're only 12th in WAB, despite only having a single loss, and it was the number 1 team in the country on a neutral. Just haven't been able to accumulate as much as you want. And that's going to probably put them down at like a 2 or 3 seed. It'd be wild if we get 33-1 Gonzaga as a 3 seed, just because the rest of the country is so strong.
Yeah,
but it's
surely
possible
not
at this point.
Surely
not. But yeah, and I guess they've got both road dates left, Santa Clara and St. Mary's. Those will be important for WAB. Those will be worth like a good amount of bump there. But can they get up to the 2 line if all these Big 10 and Big 12 teams stay high? That's debatable. We talked about how many meetings there are among those teams coming up, so they'll knock each other down a little bit. But yeah, it's an odd year for Gonzaga being so defensive heavy and not really in line for a top seed.
I did look really quick, so I'm recalling that last season, I think the lowest WAB for 1 would have been like +9, +9.5, and it's usually like north of +8.5 to at least be considered. So at WAB Watch, which I think our guy Chris in the Discord, Chris Gallo. I don't remember his name on Twitter, but wabwatch.com, they have 5.6 now with 2.6 remaining. They are probably out, wild as it is to say, of getting a 1 seed unless they run the table, counting the WCC tournament. Like,
that's like the only way to do it.
They could be 32-2 and be a 2 seed, which is, it's a wild thing to say out loud, but that is probably the most likely case.
Yep, I think so. And even there's a chance they run the table and don't get a 1, just because of the schedules and the wins being stronger for everybody else. Even UConn, who's in the Big East, isn't picking up a lot of wins, is still way high up in WAB. They're 4th because of what they did in the non-conference. So I think it's gonna be really hard for Gonzaga to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, 2 left for each of us. Will, you can go first here on your 6th.
All right, I've done a lot of hating on this episode, so I'm going to do some appreciation. Number 2. This is the rank of players in points per game, high majors only, since December 1st. So number 1 is Tabansa, number 3 is Boozer. Number 2 is Nick Martinelli for Northwestern, who has averaged 25.3 points per game since December 1st, 6.9 rebounds per game, 124 offensive rating on 30% usage. Now, this is a bit of a lost season for Northwestern. They're 10-12, 2-9 in Big Ten play. Just lost at home to Washington, which is a real bummer. They're obviously not going to come close to making the tournament, which is sad for Martinelli in his final season at Northwestern. He's done a lot for that school. I don't think that he'll be remembered quite on the level of a Boo Buie, but he's certainly one of the greatest players in school history. So you're not going to see him on your TVs this March. They did restructure the Big Ten tournament so everybody can make it, correct? Okay.
Yes, they did.
Okay. So you will see him for 1 game in that against, Maryland.
Just a pillow fight game. Yeah, there you go. Maybe they get 2 if they play Maryland then.
Yeah, well, that's true. So maybe you'll see him a couple of times. But point being, you're probably not going to see him on your TV very much. I advise, if you can, tuning in, because they will play over the next month Illinois, Iowa, Michigan, Nebraska, Indiana, and Purdue. Those will all 6 probably be losses. But while you watch them lose, it will be important to see Martinelli one last time. We haven't seen many players that will, 1, stay at the same college all 4 years despite not starting their freshman year, and 2, come back to the college after having a breakout junior season where they averaged 110 offensive rating on 28% usage. He could have been a 2nd-round pick last year, I would argue. And he's not a bad shooter from deep. Very tough player, very interesting player to watch. A little bit of a grifter foul-wise, but that's okay. You kind of have to be in his position. I mean, I just don't think that we're going to have guys like this much longer in the sport. So I want to tip my cap to Nick Martinelli, fighting in a losing battle, but performing extremely admirably while losing these games.
Yeah, and I saw, I forget which road trip it was after, where they lost, and he was just like gutted. Like he is the team leader. He loves the school. He's from Glenview, Illinois. It's part of why he stayed, and he wanted to have this be like a successful senior year and have this individual scoring lead to team success. And unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out. Some of the portal crop they went after didn't pan out. The KJ Wyndham breakout has not been coming to pass the way that the offseason seemed to indicate it might.
They're calling it my worst call since 15th place Nebraska.
Don't know. Come on, give yourself a little. Everybody was on board, especially the way he played down the stretch last year. I'm thinking about, like, I was looking back at John Sherna's stats, Northwestern legend John Sherna, who's from Glen Ellen, Illinois, and loved that school too. He's scored more in his final 2 seasons than Sherna did, and will end up there, but he's not going to quite catch him for all-time scoring. I don't think he'll hit 2,000 points quite, but he's going to get close, and enjoy that kind of a player while he's out there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, mine's kind of an appreciation here too, Will, and it was inspired by the Kuzi award list that came out yesterday, and just a super strong group of point guards. But the number I have is 16, and that is the number of top 50 players per Evan Mia that classify as point guard based on his like positional algorithm. Mm-hmm. So you're already at 1/3 of the top 50 is point guards. And that does not count Jaden Bradley or Keaton Wagler or Bruce Thornton, who are classified as shooting guards on that algorithm. So I'd make the very strong case that almost half, 21 of your 50, are point guards. The position is so incredibly strong this year. The Kuzi list didn't have Silas Demery, Jacoby Gillespie, Keaton Wagler. Wagler, I assume, will be on the Jerry West list today as shooting guards. But it also doesn't count Mikel Brown Jr. He's not in the top 50 right now because of time missed. Doesn't count Josh Hubbard, who I think any rational person would be like, yeah, that guy belongs in the top 50. His teammates just suck. It is kind of a golden season for point guards, given some of the freshman ones we have. We've got fourth year Braden Smith. There are so many good lead guards, and I think it's a big part of why we're getting the most efficient season in college basketball. A lot of the top teams have a terrific point guard. Fourth year Tamin Lipsey, first year Kingston Fleming's at Houston. I'm kind of in love with how good that position is. Even somebody like Tyler Tanner. And I think it's a big part of why the sport's been great this year.
Absolutely. I loved Kevin Sweeney's post the day they dropped the koozie, which I guess was Monday. The award was the midseason top 10 from 2021-22. Do you remember Wendell Green Jr. being on this list?
Yeah,
who shot like Wheeler,
30% from the field.
Will Richardson?
Oh, God. Will Richardson of Oregon. I was thinking of the guy from Fordham. My brain is broken. But yeah, he said, what did he say? Like, I used to dream of times like these, or something like that.
That's how far forward the sport has come from a point guard perspective in just 4 years. Like, it's good to see this much talent in the sport. And there's a lot of different factors, covered and not covered, as to why that would be the case. But to have such a strong group of point guards in the same season is really nice. We're going to get a lot of great performances in the tournament. Going to get a lot of great performances the rest of the way too. I mean, so. It's crazy to look at this list and be like, you have the assist leader in college basketball, Jeremy Fears Jr. And if I were to rank the members of this list, he might be like 8th, 7th.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's no slight to him at all. It's just like, there are guys who are a little better.
Yeah, you get Tamin Lipsey, LeBaron Filan, Tyler Tanner, Braden Smith,
Kingston Flemings.
Yeah,
crazy.
Darius Acuff, Christian Anderson. Like, somebody from UConn was like, "What a slight for Demery," and I was like, "Man, I don't know who I'd like." Demery's been incredible, advanced stat, per game stats, arguably UConn's best player, and I don't know who I'd replace him with. Gillespie is a top 10 player at Evan Mia, and he's not on the list. I'm not sure who I'd replace to have him on there. It's just a massive year for point guards, and I'm loving it. Like, Elliot Cadeau's had a much better season than I expected at Michigan, and he's like the 24th best point guard in the sport right now.
Wagler probably should be on there. I do find it strange that he's not classified as a point guard.
Yeah, I think Sam Vecini tweeted like he's played 2/3 of the season as the clear number one ball handler for them. So that's where he should be, but hey, maybe it makes it easier for him to win the Jerry West Award instead of going against all these point guards.
But outside of that, the fun thing looking at it is like, I can't pinpoint who I would take off to put someone else on. Like, look at this. I would like Boopy Miller to get at least a little love on these lists because he has been fantastic this year. But I can't look at you with a straight face and be like, I delete one of these 10 for Boopy Miller.
Yeah, I don't know where I'd go.
He'd be top 5 on that 2022 list with ease.
Easily, yeah. And he's down by like Boogie Fland, who's playing incredible for Florida right now. At 8 steals against Alabama. That was ridiculous. But yeah, him, Cadeau, Trey Donaldson, St. Superi for Gonzaga. Those guys are not in the top 50, and they're all outstanding players. I've just had to give some love to the point guards. All right, well, your final stat.
This is a team that, as far as I know, we have not referenced once on this show this year, which could be wrong. Maybe you'll be like, oh, I referenced them on November 30th. And be like, well, shit. But I'm hoping not, because if so, we're going to mention the Tulsa Golden Hurricane for the first time on the show also.
Nice. There you go.
It's time. I have waited for the other shoe to drop for 2 months, and that shoe is hovering in the air like it's in a Jordan Peele movie. It's just not coming down. It's the UFO and Nope is what I'm thinking of. It's just like a shoe that
I love it.
great movie.
Yep.
His best movie. Sorry to the Get Out Defenders. That is truly his best one.
I can't get on board. But I'll let you go.
Look, I would have voted for Nope a third time. This team, I've just been waiting for months for them to stop shooting so well, and they don't. 41% from 3, 80% from the line, 56% from 2. Elite at getting to the line in general. Really brutal if you're an opponent and you see in your schedule team that's 12th in offensive free throw rate and 5th in free throw percentage. That's a hard hill to overcome. Really good rebounding team. The question with them is they have yet to play a single quad 1 game, which is kind of amazing to be there on February 2nd, as we were saying, or 3rd, as we're saying this. They will finally play one on the road Sunday at South Florida. So that's a pretty big game. Not really sure if there's any other events on the Sunday that people should be aware of or watching. But if there is, just
this is the clear headliner.
Yeah, Tulsa.
This is the clear headliner.
Obviously better.
Yeah.
But they're now 7-2 in conference play. Neither of their losses are bad. Like North Texas on the road is not terrible. They're not a good team this year, but it's not the worst loss. And South Florida at home, that's fine. That's acceptable. But they're 19-3, clear favorite to win the AAC. I don't think of them as an at-large, really, though they're in WAB territory to be close if they keep winning. Like, I think if they finish 27-4, we can have a discussion. Like Miles Barnstable, David Green, Tylen Riley, Miles Rigsby from Troy. It's a really fun team, really fun backcourt. And their style of play, if you haven't seen them, it's like, this is what I thought Eric Conkle could be the whole time, and was just kind of stunned when it never worked out that way. And so now I'm wondering, are we going to get the reveal in a month that the first couple of Eric Conkle teams had a betting problem?
Oh, okay. They did go 4-24 against the spread one year.
Yeah.
So I would not be shocked.
So, yeah, think a little bit, people. A little bit of critical. Like, there's just no way. Look, I'm always willing to be wrong. I'm always willing to be stupid. There's just no way that in my head he could have produced a team 140 spots worse than Frank Haith.
Somehow it happened. Somehow Palpatine returned. Somehow it happened. I don't know. No explanation needed. But I think to bring up Kevin Sweeney again, he just shouted out Tylen Riley on Twitter the other day because he's been a completely different person than he was at Cal Baptist, like a little used offensive reserve. And now he's the engine for the best team in the AAC. David Green's been incredible in his 5th year returning to Conkle. He played for him before at Louisiana Tech. And I have a major soft spot for Barnstable. He's from not very far from where I grew up, Sheboygan, Wisconsin. He was a D3 player before he transferred to St. Thomas, and then now doing it on a pretty big stage in the American for a team that could end up in the NCAA tournament. They're just fun. They spread you out. They take advantage of all the open driving lanes because you have to guard them all out to the perimeter. And we didn't even mention the most fun name on the roster. Ade Papula,
yes,
a big-time shooter from the JUCO ranks. Just a great squad. And it was surprising it took this long to hit for Conkle because, man, his first 3 seasons were ugly. But they are the class of the league right now, especially with South Florida having a complete inability to win close games. Tulsa has got the edge going for a conference title there.
They're an intriguing team to me because they play exactly the way like a 13 or 14 seed mid-major would. Like very small, very spread out, very 3-point heavy. But if they make the tournament, they'd probably be an 11 or even a 12.
Yeah. So hey, could they beat Alabama in the first round?
It's an intriguing question because like, how high can you be and win if you play like Furman?
That's a good question.
So I'm excited to find out. I really hope they win this league because outside of Tulsa, your level of storylines in the AAC this year are slim.
Yeah, very slim.
I guess South Florida. I will say South Florida is pretty fun. They're entertaining. Their record doesn't really agree with like their actual level of play. So I think either of those two, I'm fine with. The rest, let's get this conference out of here.
Yeah, South Florida is like 3 baskets from undefeated in the league, like 2 1-point losses and OT loss, but 3 losses is 3 losses. All right. My final number is 16 again. I'm going back to the well with that, but this is not about point guards. This is going from a super macro thing to an extremely micro thing. 16 is the number of minutes that Brendan Housen played for Iowa at Oregon, which I've been kind of giving up hope on whether he was ever going to actually crack the Iowa rotation. But man, I think he's still a key piece potentially for that roster. And I think there's Four Roses in the Discord, who's a Iowa fan, said like, oh, he's been practicing better. He's been getting a little closer to McCollum's good side. And then he comes out, he hits 3 threes, just gives them much better spacing on their ball mover. He didn't do anything else in the box score, but I'm not sure they fully need him to. If they can get the shooting from him to spread the floor, suddenly that Iowa offense looks a lot better, and Sturtz doesn't have to do everything from the perimeter.
I would like to see him play more because Iowa, I'm still really in on. I put it in the watch list. Again, I do think people should read that. It's usually a pretty interesting article. Sometimes it's stupid. Not the weekend ones. Those are always great because I'm not the only writer and there's smarter people than me doing them.
Okay, all right.
The weekend ones are way better. Like in the week ones, it's just like, what stupid dumbass tangent am I going to go off on this time? But I did have a point to this one. People have really ridden the whole like, oh, Road Iowa thing like really hard. Iowa away from home ranks as the 14th best team in America at Torvik. Like they're fine. None of their road losses are to bad teams. Like I know people will be like, well, Minnesota's not good. That's still a top 100 team at KenPom, and they could have won that game with multiple shots in the final minute. And again, it's at the barn. It's not like it's ever been easy to win there. So like when your other 3 losses are MSU, Iowa State, and Purdue, who gives a shit? But
2 of which are really close. Like they had a chance to beat 2 top 10 teams on the road.
Yeah, well, they led Iowa State by 8 at halftime, I think. They were up for a long time that game. But like I think this team is somehow, despite all the media hype for Ben McCollum, getting undersold, which I didn't anticipate. Like it feels like they're underrated at 16-5 and 19th at KenPom. So I would like to see Mr. Housen take on a bigger role. Just a little more spread out stuff would help them just take the pressure off of Sturtz a lot. Damn it, I can't quit this team. And especially with the next 3 games looming, where it's road Washington, home Northwestern, road zombie Maryland. You got 3-0 in those, and you're 19-5, 9-4 in the Big Ten with Purdue coming to your house on Valentine's Day. Damn, man, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Purdue and Nebraska back-to-back at home at Carver Hawkeye could be big. And it's not just Housen. I think Four Roses said something about Fulgueras starting to figure it out, and he has too. He's averaging 14.5 a game over the last 2 in much higher minutes after he had scored 13 points total in their previous 5 games. And again, like going into the season, it was so clear that McCollum had limited resources in the portal. And so investing in Housen, investing in Fulgueras, those guys needed to be contributors, and they've been up and down. Mm-hmm. And if they're actually going to trend up the way they have recently, then suddenly you get a much better version of this Iowa team.
Yeah, I like them a lot. Another intriguing team where if you go look at Torvik's tourney cast, they're projected as like 6. So they'd be on the flip side of their game last year. But they are, I mean, outside of the Minnesota game, haven't really had a struggle session against a bad team. I guess you would say like Rutgers, they didn't play very well, but that was coming off of the, critical emotional road win at Indiana where they stopped the Hoosiers. USC at home and escape, I can understand the rationale there, but I mean, outside of those 2 games, it's been mostly blowouts of lesser teams. Yep. Like I don't feel, especially with how well they force turnovers and get easy 2s, that they would be susceptible to the first round loss, though they do play very slowly.
Yeah, the pace is one thing. And that USC game was weird. They were up big, and Cam Woods had an out-of-body experience. You mentioned them as a 6 seed in the flip side of last year. Well, I would like to politely decline a 6 seed Iowa, 11 seed Missouri game if that were to come to pass. I can't handle that again. I don't need that. No, thank you.
Dennis Gates just staring at the clock and being like, why is it going down?
Yeah, well, it's moving quickly.
He's looking
again,
like an Easter Island statue
for
on that sideline as 29 more seconds roll away.
Yeah, the 52-second Iowa possession because they got an offensive rebound.
The live Dr. Hahn reaction.
All right, that wraps up our 7-stat rotation. But, we've got to get to everybody's favorite segment. It is Willstradamus time. It's time for Will to tell you what's happening on Tuesday night before it happens. We're recording on Tuesday morning. you're listening on Wednesday morning, but Will's got information for you. We've got a couple big ones, NC State at SMU, Indiana at USC, but I'm also very interested in your takes on SLU at Davidson, potentially without Robbie Avila, and Miami, Ohio at Buffalo. Two big darling mid-majors that are ranked in the AP top 25. Do they survive, Will?
Good question. I did mention this on the watch list. One of the least Tuesdays I can remember, just like a really crappy February Tuesday for the sport, where NC State SMU is the leading matchup, and I'm just like, I'm interested, don't get me wrong, but I'm not like, dying to see that game. But either way, Willstradamus here. Got NC State by 4 on the road at SMU. I am simply riding the trend under Enfield that SMU doesn't beat top 50 teams and beats everybody else. Just going to keep it rolling there. I'm going to take USC at home over Indiana. I like these Hoosiers, but I don't like them enough to sweep the West Coast road trip. I think that's a step too far. A couple others I want to note. I'm going to say Boise State perhaps stunts the Nevada love for a little bit. I think they get it done at the artist formerly known as Taco Bell Arena. I will say SLU gets it done at Davidson. It's going to be close. I think this is going to be one of their hardest games of the season, is what I'll say. I think this is going to be 1 or 2 possessions the whole second half. St. Louis gets it done, though. And
your Red Hawks. You are the Miami Red Hawk man.
So I put this in the watch list. It is crazy to think that it's this high now. The odds of making a 55-yard field goal in the NFL now, just from an average kicker, are 63%.
God, can the Packers sign average kicker X? I'd love to have a guy that can 63%.
We'll bring back Matt Prater from the dead. I think Matt Prater's only 49.
All right, perfect.
But basically, Miami, Ohio has to hit 2 55-yard field goals this week to stay undefeated. And while, like, in a vacuum, if you see, I guess, who would be an average kicker? Would Jake Bates of Detroit qualify as an average kicker, you think, roughly?
I accept
So if
that,
Jake
yes.
Bates comes out, like, I won't be shocked if he misses it, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, you should hit this. You're an NFL kicker. I would expect you to hit this more often than not. I would expect Miami to win these games more often than not. So they play at Marshall at the weekend too, which is similar odds, about 60 to 65%. But I can't shake the feeling they're going to lose one of these games. And I am going to say they drop the Buffalo game. We'll say by 2, because Buffalo was so good in this game a few weeks ago. And I can't shake the feeling they might just be a really good matchup for Miami of Ohio.
Yep. It'd be a real shame too if it ends up like the double loss week and just kind of the story gets erased from the public consciousness. It's an interesting schedule they have left because they have no games with less than a 60% chance to win, but none above 90. So like every game is losable, but they're favored. So it's a tricky, like, kind of landmine. They're going to get home run swings from every team they play, especially as long as they stay undefeated. And I guess notably the Marshall game is the rare non-conference tilt at this point in the year. It's the MAC Sunbelt Challenge, where I'll say typically the home teams late in the year do a lot better because it seems like why the heck are we playing this game? But Miami, Ohio's got real stakes with that large. So that one is going to be one to watch on Saturday too, among all the other big games.
I did go back and look really quick. So because the comp to me is Murray State from 2012. Murray State's first and only regular season loss was on February 9th. So this is about and that was at home to Tennessee State. So this is about the time it would come to an end. And I have seen a lot of comments of like, oh, they're not as good as Murray State. Well, after that game at Ken Palm, Murray State was 73rd. Like Miami of Ohio right now is 90th. That's not that big of a gap. So I don't think it's that severe. Okay, 2 additional predictions for you. And these are not college basketball. I've got Seahawks 26, Patriots 18. And I can't find
6-8. Love that.
I can't find a bet on this anywhere. I would like to go yes safety. At least one.
Oh, that's going to be findable. We'll get it for you. I'll pull it up.
I had one other
because
I was poison pilled by listening to Bill Simmons this morning. The only podcast in the history of mankind that would utter the phrase "God is minus 290," which is a bet on what figure or person will be thanked first in the post-game speech. So they said God or other religious figure minus 290. teammates plus
That
something.
seems right.
Yeah, I think God is usually Jesus, whatever. But the bet I can't find anywhere is former high school quarterback AJ Barner to throw a touchdown for the Seahawks, because
Oh,
he
wow.
is their quarterback since Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL. He's their quarterback in their tush push formation.
Oh, okay.
It would
A little
be
pop pass.
the it just requires one, against type pass.
I think there's always a
Not non-quarterback
over
touchdown
2.5.
feels like it happens a lot.
Yeah, like over 2.5 players to attempt a pass is always a fun bet. You're just hoping for the trick play, or I guess sadly a QB injury, but I'd rather it be a trick play.
Yeah.
I love it. Will's dabbling in the Super Bowl, folks. It is sort of a big sports weekend coming up. So
Yes.
make sure you're ready for that. But remember, on Sunday, you're not focused on the Super Bowl. You're focused on South Florida.
I'm making everybody at our house mad because it's like, no, we have to watch South Florida play Tulsa right now. You're not watching the Puppy Bowl.
Exactly. There we go. All right. That is it. Will, any other final thoughts, or did you get them all out there?
Oh, God, I got them all out there. No, this is going to be a really fun weekend for everybody. Really exciting stuff ahead. I hope everybody enjoys this sports weekend. Stay safe at home. I don't think we're due any big winter weather this weekend, as far as I'm aware, hopefully.
Finally.
They had a big segment on our local news, our NBC affiliate, last night. And it was like some Facebook commenter who was like, why does all the weather keep happening on the weekends? It's like, you ever heard of like randomness? You ever heard of like luck of the draw?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's bad cluster luck.
Yeah.
Come on, that's what's going on here.
That's our theme for the week, is cluster luck. Just don't add an F in there.
Indeed it is. Yes. Okay, well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Will for joining me again this week. Thank you to Trilly Donovan for the platform at Basket Under Review. Folks, make sure you join that if you haven't. Tell a friend if you already have. Listen to the Burp. Thank you to Sam Frayer for our graphics, Corey Aldis, our producer behind the scenes, and of course, Home Field Apparel for sponsoring us at Basket Under Review. That's it, folks. Enjoy the week of basketball and enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll catch you next week. Cheers.